Hi, I'm Vana and this is Umer. We both use IFS therapy with our clients. Today, we are discussing our insights from Internal Family Systems Therapy, second edition by Richard Swartz. I will read a section that stood out for me from chapter 7, titled Shifting to Parts Language. Swartz says there are two ways of introducing the concept of parts. The first is to restate the problem by calling the client's thoughts, feelings, and sensations parts. The second is to inquire about the client's inner self-talk and behavior toward others. So I really like this section, this part, because it talks about the language, shifting the language. And I feel that it's so important, not because in a therapy, to use it like in a therapy context, but everyone can use that. It's such a simple concept, shifting to parts language. And especially when you're faced with challenges, when we shift our language, then problems, perspective, everything changes. It's like the way we see things change. We become like a bit like separate from the problem. We externalize it. And it is, it's something normal, isn't it? We use parts language in our
Yeah.
normal life. We're not going against something that's already innate within us. We do that in our everyday discussion. I'm in two minds. A part of me says that, a part of me says that. So if we do that a little bit more intentionally, it can really help elevate our kind of communication. What do you think, Umer, about
And before I move on to my piece, I just if I have your permission for a question,
yeah,
right?
yeah, of
The
course.
two approaches that you mentioned of shifting to parts language, what is are you using both of them in your practice, or do you have a preference for
Mhm.
one over the other?
Okay. Well, I think shifting to parts language is very, very important, as we know,
Hmm.
like especially when someone is not blended, when they are like
Hmm.
into this, when they are not regulated. Um, if the system is dysregulated, is quite difficult to shift in this moment,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
to shift into parts language. So this is yes, I do. Of course, with IFS, we both use parts language in our
Hmm.
work. And then the
Hmm.
second part is about like checking the inner self-talk. Okay.
Hmm.
So getting curious and exploring someone's system. That is so important. From a place of love, compassion, curiosity. Because even when the thing is, when we do that in therapy, there's a different way of connecting with the client. It's not like a talk, the kind of dialogue we have in right here.
Hmm.
It's like a softer approach going into someone's
Hmm.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think this is a beautiful piece, because and there is so much value to it, uh, especially when it comes to self-reflection, right? We all have done stuff. We've all gotten extremely angry. We've all gotten extremely judgmental. And if you tell me that I am an angry person, or I am a judgmental person, or I am, let's say, a racist person, right? Now that's all of me, right? And it's really, really, really difficult to be reflecting on my actions and my behavior if I am that person, right? But becomes a lot more palatable. It becomes a lot more bite-sized. Okay, you are not that behavior, right?
Yes.
A part of you is angry, a part of you is rageful. You are okay. So, as you said, the language is supremely important. The message that you're giving to your client is you are okay, you're fine, you're good enough. Now let's look at a part of you that's been acting out of sync,
Yes.
and even with that part, it's not a language of judgment. It's not a punitive language. Like, let's get curious about this part. Where did it pick up this belief from? So even while we are separating the self from the part, it's not like we're shifting towards the part and berating it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the
I
language is
love that.
extremely important.
I love,
Yeah.
it reminds me, like, when I was a kid, my mom would say, You always do that. You always this, you know? Um, and now knowing it's only, hey, actually, it's only a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's non-pathologizing language.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell you from the DSM, uh, you have this that, disorder, this and this and this. And when we flip it, oh, it's a part.
Mm-hmm.
So much more
Mm-hmm.
manageable, real. That's the truth. For me, this is my truth. It's a part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got this, say some, according to this, hypothetically, you've got a depressive disorder with, oh, no, let's flip it. Oh, a part of me feels depression at the moment. How can we go and help it? We're a system.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just one thing.
Mm-hmm. And
It,
it's so amazing.
yeah,
It's so amazing.
yeah.
While we were training under Derek Scott, he introduced the idea, and there was this conversation around hypocrisy, if you remember. Uh, the idea of hypocrisy does not exist in IFS. It's just two very different parts, right? I've known a lot of smokers who are smoking a
Yeah.
cigarette and telling me it's bad for health.
Mm,
And that's and to a person who's not accustomed to IFS language or parts
yeah.
work would be like, oh my God, this person is a hypocrite.
Yeah. Oh my God,
He's
yes.
smoking a cigarette and telling me, right? But according to IFS, there's a part that's smoking, that's the smoker part, and there's another part, maybe a more health conscious part, that feels smoking is bad. So you can hold two conflicting opinions, right? I think this model allows and accommodates for the complexity of human existence, right? You can have two very opposing
I,
views
I
within you.
love
You
that.
don't need to pick one over the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what you've said there. It can get so confusing when you say, oh, okay, and we can blame and shame others. You're a smoker, and you say no, it's a bad thing for you. Okay, so who are you then? You're a liar. You're a hypocrite. But when you shift
Mm,
it and you look at it from a parts language, it all makes
mm,
sense. And
mhm,
there are a couple of little case studies, vignettes, I don't know, in this chapter 7 of the book.
mhm,
One of them talks about Mrs. Gorlick. She's upset because her daughter leaves a lot of mess in the bathroom, and she screams and shouts at the daughter, something like that. Okay, and then she feels
mhm,
guilty, and she feels so, like, she feels out of control, confused. She's not in control. But when the
mhm,
therapist slows down and finds out, here we have a part that is angry because what's happening with your inner dialogue? How do you react to the
mhm,
other person? Okay. And
mhm,
puts everything in a parts language. Okay. You see the mess, and this part overreacts, the, your
mhm,
daughter's mess. Okay. And this part gets angry at the daughter. Then another part comes online and is feeling very guilty, feeling that is you are a bad mother. You should have done better.
mhm,
One part
mhm,
overreacts and wants to throw her out of the house, and another one feels
mhm,
guilty. And now,
mhm.
and with IFS, we can help both parts. We can give
Yeah.
hope. It's a hope
Mhm.
merchant. We can help
Yeah.
the part that gets angry. We can help the guilty part, and we can help the daughter as well, you know, who
Mm-hmm.
leaves
Mm-hmm.
the mess on the bathroom floor. So it's
Yeah.
before she's like, oh my God, I'm not in control. There's so many emotions and parts all together. It's so chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
But you when because this kind of work requires some kind of slowing down and looking
Absolutely.
inside.
Yeah.
It's freeing.
Yeah. It's you're absolutely on point, right? And I think either Derek Scott said this or Richard Schwartz himself. This is IFS is one of the most comprehensive uh, ways to map a personality, right? It allows for that complexity. And the goal of this therapy is, like the case study that you mentioned, right? There's an angry part that pops up, right? And when it's done, it goes back, right? And then the guilty part pops up, right? And the goal of this form of therapy is not to get rid of these parts, but
Yes.
have a relationship with your system so that you, without them popping up and taking over for a bit and then receding, and the other one popping up and then receding,
Yeah.
having that relationship. Okay, I see you have a point, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get it. And I see you have a point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take input from these two people, but I, the self, is going to make that decision, right? So you see a lot of, it's not about parts elimination, it's not about elimination of
Yes.
anger,
It's
right? It's
not. It's not
about
about getting rid.
listening to different,
Mm.
yeah,
You
listening
listen.
to different opposing views and being informed by those views, but not letting those views drive your life. That's what
Yeah.
happens in a lot of dysfunction.
Okay. That's a brilliant. Yes. What comes up to me is when you say, I will listen to both parts, I will take my time, slow down, see, notice what parts are activated in my system. Like kind of like separate them so I can see them clearly. And then I will respect them, validate them. And
Mhm,
we will all make the decision. Self, ideally,
mhm,
self energy, like place of calm can make the decision. But you can also give them the support they need. And ideally, for me, what comes up to me is like IFS shows you a way of loving every part of you. When they say, people tell you, love yourself, self-love. How do you do that? IFS gives you a guaranteed
mhm.
pathway to love every part of you,
Yeah,
no matter what, to understand, communicate, and love everything, all your system. I've not seen it anywhere
yeah,
else.
yeah. It is a very, yeah. Uh, a part of me is not okay with you using the word guaranteed because I'm a little hesitant, but I'd like
A
to
part of me
replace
said
that. Uh, yeah, it's a very practical way
practical.
of self-compassion, right? It
Yeah,
shows you step by step what needs to be done. I'm not saying it's easy,
no.
but it's a very simple process.
Oops.
I'm sorry. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
So yeah, that's what I have to say. It's really simple, but not easy.
Love it.
And so far, it's it's something that works, right? That's really important. I've seen it work with so many people,
Yeah, you're
yeah, and
right.
for myself as well.
Yeah. So I agree, guaranteed. It's a big word. A part of me is so keen and passionate about this model.
Hmm.
Uh, so I guess a part of me wanted to say guaranteed. And I
Hmm.
totally agree. It's even though the model is like intuitive, I would say. It
Hmm.
makes sense.
Hmm.
It's simple. But because it's simple and intuitive, we use parts language in our everyday life. It doesn't make it easy.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And There is this misconception, or maybe it was just my personal misconception, taking this opportunity for people who are watching this, that I don't know how this idea came to me, but IFS is like, a super fast 6 session therapy, right? It's really fast as compared to psychodynamic work, right? But again, uh, as relationships that takes time to build, right? You can't just show up, yourself cannot just show up and
Oh, wow.
expect all the protectors to just start trusting you. So it might be a lot quicker than your traditional talk therapy or psychodynamic relational work. It does take time,
It
right?
takes,
So
yeah.
it's important to set that expectation right for the client. So I
Now,
place it somewhere between EMDR and psychodynamic relational work, right? The
yeah,
length of time required. EMDR is super fast, right? Or in your case, hypnosis,
yeah.
and relational work is based on years, right? So I would place IFS somewhere in the middle, right? So just to put a word of caution out there, if you're
So are
really
you
looking
talking,
for transform,
so is it like talk therapy, the psychodynamic?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, I have a question here
Mm-hmm,
because, I've had clients, I use parts therapy with hypnosis, and, it takes one session for a simple phobia. 40 years of a
mm-hmm,
phobia, I can help someone, like possibly, depends on the person, on their circumstance.
mm-hmm,
Um, I can help them as little as one session, in as little
mm-hmm,
as one session. But it's an individual thing where I love, I mean,
mm-hmm,
yeah, you are probably right. EMDR this is the way it is. It's super fast. Uh,
mm-hmm.
and I think EMDR with IFS together would work even better.
It is. That's what I'm aspiring to be very soon. Because I honestly love both, right? Right now,
Yeah,
I'm not trained in EMDR, but I've had EMDR. I have the experience of EMDR as a client, and I do a lot of self-administered work. It's just very powerful, and so in
yeah,
IFS.
yeah,
And why not? If there are two things are really good, we kind of
yeah.
merge them, and something
Mm,
even better comes out of it.
mm. But
I mean,
what I'm
we're here to help people.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know if we can predetermine the length of time it takes. I know,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we can make an assumption. Normally, the people we see from our experience, people who have trauma,
yeah.
that's it, the length of time. But with IFS, we go straight to the problem,
Yeah, yeah,
and it does take courage to go there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Any takeaways
Yeah.
from today's
Um,
conversation?
yes, my takeaway. So let me see. Let me check my part. I want to give it my takeaway part.
Mm-hmm,
So that kind of part says, let's try and use parts language more in our everyday conversations. You don't have to go to a therapist to use parts language. You can
mm-hmm,
do it, and you can do it more like intentionally. When you
mm-hmm,
get angry, instead of saying, "Hey, I'm angry," what about saying,
mm-hmm.
part of me is angry? And notice the shift that
Yeah.
happens within you. What
Mm.
about you then, Uber?
That was it.
Yeah.
That was exactly what I was going to say, and you stole my line. So I'm just going to repeat it,
Mhm.
and let us know in the comments. Make a simple change. Start really small. Introduce parts language, and see if that shifts anything for you. And let us know in the feedback in the comments, real time, if it changed your perspective, right? Did it help? Maybe not. Maybe one of us can, if it's not working, give you a pointer way to go next, right? So I'll leave you guys with that.
Great. And so thank you, Umer, for this discussion. And thanks to everyone
Hmm.
for watching. And
Hmm.
we'll be here again next time. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.